So hello everyone, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to be introducing the last speaker of this lovely day of continuous professional development. Lavaughn John has been teaching English as a foreign language for over 19 years. She holds the TKT, CELTA and DELTA certificates. She has an MA in English language teaching from the University of Essex, and she's currently pursuing an MSc in Applied Linguistics at the University of Oxford. She is a keen believer in professional development and specializes in teacher training, ESP and EAP. So over to you, Lavaughn.
Okay, hi everyone. First of all, thanks a lot guys for inviting me. It's a real privilege to be speaking to so many people across Brazil and sharing a little bit about what we do at the British Council. Okay, so as Bruno said, I've been teaching here in Brazil mainly for almost 20 years. And I'll just tell a little bit about my own teaching history. I came to Brazil kind of just looking for adventure. And I loved it from the very first day, and I fell in love with it, and I decided to stay. And I got a job immediately teaching English because I'm a native speaker of English. We know how that goes. But soon after that, I started thinking to myself, well, there must be a better way to do this. There must be some methodology. Of course, I knew nothing about, teacher training and everything that existed on the market. So I started going to bookstores and looking for books on methodology and trying to learn a little bit by myself. And I got some really good books. And then I started looking for courses here in Brazil, and I went abroad, I did my master's, and when I came back, then I did my CELTA, then my DELTA. Now I'm doing another master's degree. And basically that's a little bit about me and where I am professionally. I've been at British Council for a little bit over 5 years, almost 5.5 years now. And, we do a lot of projects here in Brazil with Secretariats of Education, with universities, and so on. Okay, so I'll share my screen with you so we can talk a little bit more about professional development. Okay, all right. So I thought it would be good to kind of summarize what we discussed today about professional development before going on to focus on the British Council specifically. Okay. So we talked a lot about teacher training. We talked a lot about continuous professional development, and I thought it would be interesting to kind of understand and situate where teacher training, or what teacher training is, what CPD is, and where one fits in with the other. So this first definition of teacher training I got from a dictionary online. Okay, and I thought it was pretty succinct and to the point. So professional preparation of teachers, usually through formal coursework and practice teaching. So teacher training would be a lot of the things that we spoke about today, like CELTA, DELTA, iCELT, and so on. Continuous professional development is a little bit broader than that. So I put here some of the key points involved in continuous professional development. Natural learning experiences, as well as conscious and planned activities. So what we're doing now, for example, and what you've been doing all day, is a little bit more of a natural learning experience. Or maybe perhaps a mix between a natural learning experience and a conscious activity, because you've chosen to do this. It's not something that just popped out of nowhere and you learned from it. So it's an activity, either planned or not, that has a direct or indirect benefit to the individual, to the group, or to the school, or to all three. It's something that you can do alone or with other people. And it's something that you do to review, to renew, and to extend your commitment to teaching. And I thought that was really interesting, because sometimes I think when we think about teacher training and professional development, we always think about learning new things and learning more. But it's also important, I think, to review concepts and practices, and to take perhaps a new look at it and see what we've been doing and reflect on what we've been doing. So reflection is also part of CPD. CPD also involves acquiring and developing knowledge, skills, and emotional intelligence. It's not something so concrete, perhaps, but I think it's very important that we develop as a whole person, not just my teaching practice and knowing how to ask information questions or knowing how to teach the present perfect and so on, but developing as a whole person and knowing who you are as a professional and where you stand professionally is also a part of CPD. Okay, and I thought the last part was really important throughout each phase of their teaching lives. So this is something that is for a lifetime, for as long as you're a professional. Each phase of your professional life, continuous professional development can take place, whereas teacher training perhaps would take place at certain points. You can really do CPD exactly as it says. It's continuous and it's development throughout the whole journey, your whole professional journey. So I thought, let's try to understand where teacher training fits in with CPD. And I think teacher training really is a part of the wider aspect of professional development. So it's just one small part of what we can do to develop as teachers. Okay. Now, we have discussed a lot of these things today, so I thought we'd just take a review. On the left-hand side, you'll see some ideas for teacher training, a lot of which we've discussed today very competently by other speakers. So things that you can do to train as a teacher: TKT, the exam, you have the ICELT, CELTA, DELTA, bachelor's, a master's, a PhD, as well as individual courses, which we will be looking at in more depth today, which are offered by the British Council. On the right-hand side, we have continuous professional development and different things that you can do to develop yourself professionally. So, professional networking, which is exactly what we're doing right now. This can be done face-to-face or online. So for you who are members of BrELT, you are doing exactly that. You are networking with other professionals and learning from them, as well as sharing your own personal experiences. And this is part of professional development. Individual and collaborative action research. This is something you can do alone, or you can decide to do with a partner or with a group, and decide to investigate a professional activity, something that you actually do in the classroom. Do some research about it to try to understand what you're doing and perhaps how you can do that better, or to learn about what other people do. Conference attendance, we have conferences here in Brazil and we have conferences abroad. So last year in Brasilia we had the BRAS TESOL. Also annually we have the TESOL conference in the United States, and we have the IATEFL in the United Kingdom, which are very, very good and I highly recommend. But of course there's a cost involved, so this is a little bit more expensive. Study groups. A lot of people actually, start up study groups to improve either their language or their teaching practice, and this is something that you can do at a very relatively low cost. And of course, with technology, you can get together with people online. They don't have to be, in your city or nearby. It's something that you can do, with people across the country or even in other countries. Teacher collaboration, which perhaps would be associated with coaching and mentoring, where you can work together with other teachers, either as peers or as a mentor or as a mentee. You can ask someone, why not, to help you with your teaching, to observe your classes, and to give you feedback, so that you can perhaps, there might be one point that you'd like to improve, where you think you have a colleague who can give you ideas or perhaps give you advice on how that can be done better. Reading, which I think is really important, and it's how I got started with my own professional development, by finding books such as How to Teach English and the How To series, edited by Jeremy Harmer. We have excellent journals, English Teaching Professional, Modern English Teacher. Of course, they're not that cheap, but if you work in a school with other teachers, perhaps your school might be willing to sponsor a journal and have it available for all the teachers. And you can, work together to share or you can share the cost with your colleagues and share it around, or photocopy pages and share with them. MOOCs are also something relatively new. Some of them are totally free of charge. Some of them have a relatively low cost, and it's something that you can do with a little bit more of flexibility. And the British Council has quite a lot of MOOCs. Perhaps we can talk about that a little bit later if we have more time. As well as free professional development websites, such as the Teaching English website, which I'm sure many of you know about. So if you take a look here, you can see that professional development in general can go from more structured on the left to less structured activities on the right. And we have a whole range, ranging from structured to less structured. Okay? All right, so today we'll be taking a look specifically at individual courses which fall under teacher training, under teacher education. So we take a look at the British Council Continuous Professional Development Framework. So this framework is divided into stages of development and professional practices. Okay, so we take a look first at the stages of development. There are 4 stages of development in this professional, this CPD framework, starting from awareness and going all the way to integration. So awareness would be you as a teacher are aware of a specific practice, but perhaps you don't use it or you don't know that much about it. Understanding is you know what the professional practice means and why it is important. Engagement means you demonstrate competency in this professional practice at work. And integration, you demonstrate a high level of competency in this professional practice, and this consistently informs what you do. So this is a range of how can I say, maybe knowledge, I can call it, ranging from awareness to knowledge of a certain practice that you implement in the classroom, okay? And then we have the very specific professional practices, things that we actually do in the classroom. So we have lesson planning, understanding learners, assisting learners, using inclusive practices, professional development, which is what we're talking about, sorry about that, using multilingual approaches, and so on. So how does all of this come together in the framework? Let me show you here. You can see the 12 professional practices that we looked at on the right are here, okay? Planning lessons, knowing the subject, ICT integration, using multilingual approaches, and so on. And then the 4 levels of awareness would be here: awareness, understanding, engagement, and integration. So for each of these professional practices, you can have a different level of knowledge or practice that you implement in the classroom. So let's say, for example, managing resources, you might be pretty good at that. So for managing resources, you can perhaps be here at engagement, but perhaps managing the lesson, you may feel that you need to learn more about that and you're not as good as you'd like to be, and you might consider yourself to be at this level here, understanding. Using inclusive practices, this is something relatively new, talking about inclusion in the English language teaching classroom. So it might be something that you are aware of, but you're not really putting into practice in the classroom. So your level might be here, for example, at awareness, okay? So what we've tried to do with this framework is look at all the different practices that we need to carry out in the classroom, and try to give teachers a wide range of options of understanding where they are, and then from that understanding be able to implement and to engage in courses that can help them to move from awareness to understanding to engagement all the way to integration, thereby having quality in the classroom. Okay, let me explain a little bit further how that works. What I'll do here is take you step by step through the website so you can understand how this, circular framework actually works and how you can get to the courses and find courses that are suitable for your level of knowledge in each of these professional practices, okay? When we go to the British Council website, you're going to see these tabs here at the top, and you can click on Teacher Development, which will then take you to this page here. For those of you familiar with the British Council website, you probably know that we have a huge range of materials, and most of it, perhaps 95% of the materials that we have available is completely free of charge. So on this page, Teacher Development, you will actually find all the different things that we have available free of charge, except for the continuous professional development, which are courses which are paid. And we'll talk a little bit about the cost a little later on, okay? So to learn more about the courses and how they fit into the CPD, you're gonna click here on continuous professional development. Okay, this will take you to the page with the 12 professional practices that we just looked at: understanding learners, planning courses, managing the lesson, and so on. And you will see all 12 of them. And you can click on any one of them, and it will take you to this page here. If you're a first-time user, perhaps the best thing to do would be to assess your skills so you can really understand within the framework for each of those 12 practices how far along you are. Are you at integration or are you at awareness? Okay, and by doing a very short test, it probably takes 20 minutes, you will be able to assess your skills, and you will actually get a detailed report telling you how you are with each of these and giving you suggestions of what you need to do, which I'll show you here. Okay, so just going back, when you click on Assess My Skills, you will see again the Professional Development Framework here, and then the option here to do a test. It's timed, I think, and you start the test. At the end of the test, you'll get a detailed report, which looks like this. So I did the test this morning. I just put in answers. I wasn't actually being myself. So you can see here, awareness, understanding, engagement, and integration, and the 12 professional practices. So the person who did the test wasn't me, it was somebody else, using my body. Planning lessons and courses, I have had some awareness, but perhaps definitely they need to develop quite a lot more. Managing the lesson, they were a little bit more along the awareness scale. Assessing the lesson, practically no knowledge. Knowing the lesson, no knowledge at all. Using inclusive practices, there was more understanding of this concept here. And based on the results from this test, the framework or the website would then make recommendations of courses that can be done to help to move you along from awareness to understanding, to engagement, to integration. Okay, so based on the results that I got this morning when I did this test, these courses here were recommended for me. So on planning lessons and courses, it was recommended that I do the following. It was recommended that I do the following courses: understanding lesson planning, understanding speaking, and so on. So there are suggestions for each of the 12 professional practices, and then you choose the course that you would like to do. What I find very interesting about this approach is that you're really free to choose how you'd like to develop yourself. What you feel, of course, you have the guidance of the results of the tests that you do, but you also have your own, feeling. Look, I think I need to improve understanding lesson planning more, and maybe I need a little bit more classroom language and lesson management. So I will do those courses. And then you can, based on what is recommended to you, you can then choose the courses that you'd like to do and move on to that. Okay, and here we have the suggestion. For example, let's go back. Sorry. These are the suggestions, and then this is one of the courses that I clicked on. So I'm now going to do understanding speaking, maximizing interaction. Okay, here you can see the language level that they recommend for the course, how many hours you will spend on the course, and the price, which is £12, which is not terribly expensive. £12 would give you a little bit less than 50 reais, I believe. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the cost of teacher training and the cost of professional development, because as we have seen throughout the day, we've seen, you know, people talking about different courses and different options that we have on the market, and it can be quite costly to do courses such as CELTA and DELTA. I did a bit of research. DELTA could cost perhaps more than 10,000 reais if you do all three modules. So we know that it's quite costly. So for teachers who perhaps don't have the money to invest at the moment, they can, of course, there are other options if we look at professional development a little bit more widely. And these courses by the British Council are quite good options because, first of all, they're not very time consuming and they're not very costly. So if you choose perhaps to do one course a month, let's say, and you plan your professional development for the year, and you say, this year I need to improve my lesson planning skills. So I'm going to do the courses that are offered by British Council, and I'll do one a month. So by the end of the year, I would have done 12 courses, and I would have spent 50 reais a month, multiplied by 12. That's something a little bit more manageable. You'll be thinking to yourself, 3 hours, that's such a little bit of time. On one hand, it is, but on the other hand, first of all, I know that a lot of teachers really don't have a lot of disposable time for studying. And secondly, one thing that I would recommend to teachers is not to just look at the course as something standing by itself, but something rather that works together with other actions under the professional development umbrella. If we look at the British Council website, I had mentioned earlier, when you get to the teaching, I will go back. Yes, to this page here. When you get to the teacher development website, besides the continuing professional development tab, you also have video tips, you have publications, and so on. So what I suggest is that you look at the course as part of a wider range of actions that you can take to improve a specific skill. So let's say that you want to work on giving instructions, for example, and you do a 3-hour course on giving instructions. There are also video tips available on giving instructions, and there are many publications that we have where you might find an article specifically on giving instructions, as well as some of the other suggestions that I made earlier, like working with colleagues, having class observations. So after, let's say that you plan this month to do the course on giving instructions. So you watch your video, which is free of charge. You can download a publication where you can get an article, which is also free of charge. You do the course, which would cost about 50 reais a month. And then you talk to a colleague and you ask perhaps, oh, I'd like if you can observe 1 or 2 of my classes because I've been working on this specific skill and I'd like to know what you think of my instruction giving. I've learned several things and I'd like to see if you think I'm putting them into practice and how you think I can put them into practice better. So it's not just the course working by itself, but it's a whole range of activities or choices that you make that can really take you from awareness all the way to integration. As I said, let me just move forward. Okay, the British Council offers not just the paid courses, but also a lot of free material. So we have the the videos, the publications, and we also have publications that we do just for Brazil, which are available in our office in São Paulo. You can contact us. Last year, for example, we offered, I believe a lot of people here might have had access to those materials at BrELT. We had a publication specifically for Shakespeare, because last year we celebrated 400 years of Shakespeare's passing and 400 years of Shakespeare. And we published some beautiful materials in celebration of that, and that's still available from the British Council. So in addition to all the things that we have available online that you can download, we also have a lot of publications, hard copies, that are available just for things that we do specifically for Brazil. So I'd like to encourage you. This was just a very quick taste of what you can do using the materials and the courses that we have available on our website. And we can discuss, we can open the floor to questions and to discussions, and have a nice wrap up to the day, the lovely day that we've had today with all the presentations. Okay, here you can see my contact information, my British Council email, as well as my personal email. If you'd like to get in touch with me, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have after, but please feel free to ask any questions that you'd like to right now, okay? Thank you very much.
Lavaughn, if you would please read aloud your email and contact details so that people can see it, because sometimes it gets blurred on YouTube, please.
Okay. So my British Council email is Lavaughn, which is L-A-V-A-U-G-H-N, John, J-O-H-N, at britishcouncil.org.br. My personal email is ljohntesol, T-E-S-O-L, 23 at gmail.com. Okay. So just going back a bit, the courses and the professional development framework that I talked about is available on the Teaching English website, which is teachingenglish.org.uk. And the British Council website here in Brazil is britishcouncil.org.br. All right, so we can have questions.
Let's see if we have questions. Natalia, Thiago.
I'm going to...
Just a moment, Lavaughn, let me check. Anyone in the room got questions?
Oh, was I that clear?
Just a moment, I'm gonna check if anyone in the YouTube has questions.
Okay.
Questions. No further
While you're
questions?
looking at questions, I just wanted.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, our CPD framework, I found it to be quite similar to the Cambridge CPD framework that Alberto presented this morning, because the concept really is almost the same thing. Moving, teachers from one level to the other, moving up in terms of knowledge and skills. So the basic idea is very similar. So I'm not recommending that to use exclusively British Council CPD or courses. I think we can mix and match. Of course, I think, I would recommend, I have CELTA, I have DELTA, which is from Cambridge, and I would highly recommend that teachers look into CELTA and DELTA, TKT, and the other offers that are there. But I think what we have to offer at British Council is actually something quite accessible in terms of time and in terms of cost. And, if we mix and match with the other courses that are available out there, I think teachers have lots of options to achieve the goals that they set for themselves professionally.
Okay, Lavaughn, thank you very much for this enlightening presentation. It was very, very interesting. very relevant. There's a deluge of compliments for you on YouTube, but I don't think there's any question. There are no questions for you. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up here.
One question.
Yes, Natalia, go ahead.
Could you just mention there was some research by the British Council about public schools in Brazil? Maybe people would be interested in learning the general idea of that.
Okay, great. Good question. 2 years ago, we did very in-depth research of English language teaching at public schools in Brazil. The scope of the research, so that you can understand that it's really in-depth and it's really something worth looking into, because we covered all of Brazil. All 5 regions of Brazil. We went into schools, we did ethnographic research, we observed teachers teaching and working. They were filmed, so we have some videos of them doing their work, and as well as their testimonies of how they feel about the work that they do and the difficulties and the challenges that they face. Some of the results of this research that really jumped out at me were the following. 1, teachers have some resources. Teachers in public schools have some resources available to them. They have the PNA of the day, the books. Some of them have some maybe CDs. They have the boards, chalkboard or whiteboard. But the things that they have available in abundance are not the resources that the students most enjoy using. So what do students most enjoy? They really enjoy music, videos, using the internet, and using technology. And the teachers don't have this in abundance. So that there is a bit of an atraso, we can say, with what we have available and what the students would like to use to learn the language. So this is one of the things that really jumped out at me. What else about the research? What I can tell you is that you can find it available on the website that I just showed to you. It's available for download and you can take a read. It's really very, very interesting. I presented this at IATEFL last year, and there was a lot of interest in knowing about Brazil and what happens in Brazil and what happens in Brazilian public schools. So it's something perhaps that we can discuss in depth at another time for people who are public school teachers or people who are engaged with the public education system and what goes on there, because we do have quite a big challenge still with teaching of English and teaching of foreign languages in general in public schools. I think we had another question somewhere.
Yes, there's a question from Henrique. He wants to know which courses do you advise for a freelance teacher?
Okay, Henrique, if you're speaking about what we have available from the British Council, I would suggest that you take the steps that I showed you in the presentation, where you do the skills test and they can then indicate to you, based on the level of your skills, the courses that are best suitable to your, to your needs. If you're speaking about in general, have you looked into the TKT first of all? It's not something that's terribly difficult. It's quite accessible. It's not very expensive. And then CELTA, highly, highly recommended. Because when I did CELTA, I had already been teaching English for over 10 years, and I already had a master's degree. But it was, as we say in Portuguese, a divisão de águas, because I felt that I learned a lot in terms of classroom practice. I was able to consolidate things that I already knew. I was able to reflect on things that I was doing perhaps incorrectly or I didn't realize I could do differently. So I highly recommend CELTA. Depending on what your professional goals are, you can look into doing DELTA as well, or ICELT. So it really depends on so many things, what your goals are, where you are at the moment, what you've already done. So I can't really, it's like a doctor, I can't really give a diagnosis without knowing more about you. But these are some of the suggestions that I have.
Okay, we have a question from Iris DeVita. She wants to know if you can give her a piece of advice on how to start writing articles for technical journals.
Okay. Depends on what kind of journal you're looking at. The first thing to do would be to identify the journals that you'd like to write for and find out what they are looking for from writers. Some journals are what we call peer-reviewed journals, peer-reviewed, which means when they receive your article, this article is reviewed by other professionals before it's approved for publication. These are a little bit more difficult. They really require a high level of technical knowledge, and so you need to really understand the journal that you'd like to write for and see what the requirements are. But if you haven't started writing and publishing yet, perhaps you could look at writing for journals that are not peer-reviewed, such as ELT Professionals and Modern English Teacher. Those are perhaps good to start with before moving up to the peer-reviewed journals.
Okay, very good. Alberto asked us to mention his comment. He commented that the Cambridge English and the British Council have a joint statement for the continued professional development frameworks, and they can be complementary. Can you comment on that, please?
Yes, definitely. As I said, I'm not recommending exclusivity. I don't think that makes sense. I think teachers really need to explore all the options. And I think that's why today was perfect, because we really put a lot of the things that are available out there for teachers. And then you really, as a teacher, you need to really look at yourself and see, okay, where am I at this moment? What have I already done? And what do I want to achieve? Where do I want to go next? What's the next step? And then look at what's available and choose the best course for you, because the best course will be not just the course that will take you to the next step, but it will also be the course that you have the time to dedicate to, that you have the money to pay for, because you have different courses with different costs. You have courses here in Brazil, you have courses abroad. So do you have the money and the time to perhaps go abroad? Do you live in a smaller city where you don't have some things available? Do you live in a big city where you have everything available? So you need to really, each individual really has their own personal journey, and they really need to understand where they are. Another thing that I suggest is you can ask a question on BrELT. If you make your own diagnostic and you see, okay, I am at point B and I'd like to get to point D, and you're really not sure how to get there, you can shout out on BrELT and ask someone, and I'm pretty sure that, you know, there's so many competent people involved who can, and find someone in your city who you can work with as a mentor, perhaps, who, you know, find a mentor who can give you advice that you can meet with occasionally online or face-to-face. There's a lot that you can do to really help you to move along your professional journey.
Okay, Edu, your question?
Okay, Lavaughn, hi. We've talked through Facebook, so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I have a question. I have a very close friend of mine. She works at the British Council in the English department. Actually, she was my student, and by what I've heard from her is that the British Council is going through some changes, and apparently the English department is being taken down. How's that going to work? How's the support that the British Council has always given to TEFL education in Brazil? Will it continue? How will it happen? So.
Okay, yes, so we are going through some changes right now that we ourselves are still trying to understand and learn about. But what I think will happen is we will continue with a much reduced department, and there will be some minimal support available, but not as much, not as many people as we have today, and we probably won't be running as many projects as we are today. But the idea is that we will have at least one representative of English here in Brazil. But we will not stop English completely. The courses that I've just presented to you and the professional development framework is still available online. So that is something that's there. Our website is still available, and we're still available to answer questions. So anyone who gets in touch with the British Council will have an answer. If you want to do the IELTS exam, for example, that's still there, still available. So what we are doing is actually cutting back and reducing our activities here in Brazil at this moment. But it probably won't be like that forever. Hopefully. And then changes, we will perhaps, the department will grow again sometime in the future.
Hopefully, yeah. And what I most appreciate on the work of the British Council is that you have so many projects going on, and you do it in a, in a very British way. you help Brazilian education in such a standard that you do so much, and nobody gets to know about that. And I think it is fantastic. And I was actually sad of hearing that you're kind of cutting back, but hopefully this will be just for the sake of the moment. That we all know that the situation in the world has been a little insane, but things will get better. Hopefully.
Yes, I hope so. But we'll still be there. This kind of cutback has happened before in the past. So we have this kind of expansion and, diminishing and expansion depending on the money that we have available, because we are funded by the British government. So it depends on how much money is available for this kind of work that we do. Hello?
Yeah, no.
Okay. Okay.
Lavaughn, thank you very much for a very elucidating talk. We'd ask you thank you all for participating on a Sunday. Edu will talk about the certificate soon enough, but please give us feedback too. The link for the feedback is bit.ly/feedback0117. So 01 representing January, 17 representing the year. bit.ly/feedback0117. Eduardo, would you like to talk about the certificate now?
Yes. For those who attended the other sessions, the procedure is there is the link that you can see right now on the screen, bit.ly/British Council, all in lowercase letters. And you have to enter in this link, write your full name and your email address, and you'll get your certificate by February 25th. You'll be notified by email or in a post on the BrELT community. So there will be a link for you to access a Google Drive folder. You can download your certificate. If you watch this talk other than on July 29th at 6:14 p.m., you won't be able to receive the certificate. Certificates will be issued just for those who are attending the session happening now, live sessions. Okay? So if you're watching the session now, you have around 15 to 20 minutes to go sign up for it, and then you will see that in a month or so. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it, right, guys?
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Natalia, you're speaking, but you're muted, right?
Not she's muted.
Natalia, you want to say something? I see your lips moving, but you're muted.
Oh, that's better, isn't it? Thank you all for coming. Thank you especially Eduardo and Thiago Veiga for kickstarting this event and organizing it. with the help of Bruno, Andrade, Ricardo Barros. Priscilla is also a moderator.
And yourself.
And me, but especially Tiago and Eduardo. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lavaughn.
Thank you
for coming. Don't forget to fill in the feedback form, and if you need the certificate, filling in the certificate as well.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Bye.
Bye.